Well, thank you, and good afternoon. And as Alison very rightly said, the Centre for Learning and Teaching is there for you. It's not there for its own entertainment. It's there to help you in a variety of different ways. And while it began as mainly to help with distance learning students, it has evolved into something much more integrated and really encourage your attendance. Today is the first of our new series of the Provost's Conversations on Teaching and Learning. And Dr. Jackie Sharpe in the College of Health Sciences has agreed to give us a good kick-off with the way we're going to go today. Jackie is a senior lecturer in the School of Community and Environmental Health in the College of Health Sciences. She's also a program director for our Bachelor of Science in Health Sciences. And that degree actually has 3 different tracks, and public health concentration, health services administration concentration, and a human services minor. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you keep you pretty busy. What Jackie's going to start us off with is a conversation about planning your course and where does technology fit into that. And Dr. Sharpe's been a practicing healthcare professional for many years. I won't say how many. You can tell them if you like, but it's been a while. She's got lots of experience. She's actually a veteran naval officer with 30 years of experience in service, and has received a number of awards for her excellence in teaching. So today, Dr. Sharpe is going to talk about, I hope, the importance of adequate planning. And if you haven't planned your courses by now for this semester, it's probably time to start. But certainly planning and the use of technology. So I look forward to hearing what Dr. Sharpe has to say. So over to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, let's get started. There is one quote that's not on the screen that I want to tell you what it says. It says, any teacher that can be replaced with a computer deserves to be. Okay? Now, that also brings to mind my first experience here at Old Dominion University. I believe I received a phone call from the chair at that time, who also, I received my doctorate from here, and it was one of those phone calls like, Jackie, I need you to help me. You love to get those kind of phone calls, that kind of lets you know people still like you, you still got something to offer. So my first job, I didn't know it at the time on what I was going to have to do, was my chair at that time said to me, she says, Jackie, the faculty here really needs to get online exam done for our comprehensive master's degree exam. And I said, okay. And my next question was, how am I going to do that? So she said, oh, you can go over to CLT. I learned about CLT with my first job here. I went over there, and June Ritchie held my hand, and we went step by step on not only how to create these exams for online use, but down to the nitty-gritty, everything. They checked over my work. The date was sent for the exams to start, and I thought, phew, I am really so ready for all of this. Now, on the day of the exam, I could see, because there was a time involved in it, the date you have to start your exam, and a time, the number of hours to do the exam. So I've been the good little student, because I was really a student at that time, in a student role. I'd been taught to do something, and I was getting the feedback. And my feedback, I could look at the screen, and I could see who started the exam, who was still going on the exam. Then I get a phone call. This man on the other side said, are you Dr. Sharpe? I said, yes, sir, I am Dr. Sharpe. He said, we have one of your students over here in one of the computer labs, and I needed to call you. And I go, what happened? He said, well, she took the exam, and everything was going along fine. And she looked back at the screen, and everything was gone. And he said, she kind of panicked, freaked out, and she did the only thing she knew what to do at that time. I told him I had a phone number, but she dialed 911. I kid you not. That's a true story. She said, not only are the police here, but the fire truck and the ambulance. True story. With technology, that's something we don't always plan about, and that's student anxiety and teacher anxiety. And I want to talk a little bit about your plan, because see, all of this technology is out here, and it can be overwhelming. And if you're a new faculty member and you find out you're not going to be teaching in the classroom, but you're going to have to create that syllabus because your course is now online. And I go to conferences and I hear people talk about this all the time. You have seasoned professors out here who have done all this brilliant research. Their names are well known, but if you tell them they have to teach in front of camera, and if you tell them they have to do an online class, they say, I don't want to do it. And then I say to them, you got to think about that, because it's people like you who's giving people like me a job. So what you don't want to do, somebody else can do. And actually, it's all about getting over that initial anxiety. Planning is very important. You just don't start using technology just to say I'm using it. What do we use a lot of here at ODU? What do you see us using a lot of in our classroom? Anyone? And give Allison a chance. Where's Allison? In case we bring the mic to you. What do you see a lot of here? What do we use a lot of?
PowerPoint.
PowerPoint. Anything else? Email. Okay. Those are the common ones. Someone else?
Well, I use texting and learning catalytics.
Okay. Testing and learning. Catalytics, you say it? You know what I'm saying?
Texting.
Oh, texting. Okay. Now,
And Blackboard.
Right. Now, you have a sheet here, because one thing I find out when you have lunch, this is like your menu. I want you to be able to eat and not figure out where I am, okay? So this kind of help us all guide in. But notice that just a few were named, and there are many more out there. We deal with what we feel very comfortable with. We really do. Now, sometimes when being a program director gives you a chance to look at your colleague's syllabus. And when you look at the syllabus, many times you think about, this person is brilliant. What else could they have done in the method that they're using to really bring out those objectives? Now, one thing I learned, and I learned many years ago at the University of Maryland and at the other universities that I used to go to take my little summer courses, like Johns Hopkins, is that planning. You can't get away from the objectives for your course. I mean, the objectives drive everything. And those of you who are getting into continuing education, trust me, I've done that too under state guidance. If you want continuing education units for your professional group, you're going to have, whether you like objectives or not, it demands it. Accreditation bodies demand it, and continuing education approval at the state level demands it. You got to say, what direction are you going to take your learners, no matter who they are? So the objectives are there. So if you've never studied Bloom's taxonomy of learning, make sure, it used to be 3 little books, it could be now combined into one, but anything for the cognitive, psychomotor, affective domain, you're going to be using some action verbs there in writing up your program. And you really need to say, what do you want these students to be able to do when I finish whatever I'm doing? And I mentioned the 3 different domains, and some of you are going to be using a combination of them or maybe one of them, but you're going to be using them. And remember the course outline. All of us at some time in our life, we're very smart people. We say to ourselves, we look in the mirror, I'm brilliant, I'm wonderful. But you need your plan and you need your outline. You learn very quickly. You don't get very far if you don't have those kinds of things developed. So you really need that. And you might say, well, why did I put down the census? And actually, I got that idea from one of my distant learning students who said to me once, she said, Dr. Sharpe, I really didn't know whether I was going to like all this online teaching and classes. She said, because where I am, she said, I'm the only student sitting there in a room. You way in Norfolk, and I can hear and see you, but I know you'll be able to hear me, but you won't be able to see me. So she said, my voice not a picture or anything. But she said, it was your voice talking to me and calling me by name that made me feel included as if I were sitting in the classroom. So that's what I meant by the senses, the hearing. And that's why it's so important when you're the instructor in the classroom that the tech people are your friends. You are the captain of that ship when you're in the classroom. You want your students to be able to see you, to hear you, and you listen for that kind of feedback so that you can guide them along the way. And then someone mentioned when I asked about what do we see very commonly used. Well, it's not that I'm anti-PowerPoint. I think PowerPoint is being so overused that when you walk into a classroom, the students are so geared to the screen. You know, they're writing. Well, what are they not doing a lot of when they're doing that? They're not listening. They're not listening to what you say. So I like to use my PowerPoint in a different way. I like now to give them to the students, let them have them, so they can use it as a guide and focus in whatever their learning style is to let them have those PowerPoint slides. When they come into the classroom, I expect that they have looked at the objectives for the lesson for that day and that they're ready to deliver. And I teach my students, don't use the book as a crutch either. In healthcare is evolving so with the healthcare reform bill that books right now, some of them are pretty much outdated. And I found that out when I gave them an assignment to do. Everybody in the class got it wrong because they were talking about pre-existing conditions as if it were still a negative factor. But they forgot to read about, in their assignment, about the healthcare reform bill, the part that I wanted them to, because the change was there and it's already being utilized. And those of us who have children, I have 4 children, and thank God for the reform bill, because my 20-some-year-old children cannot stay on the policy until they're 26. And if they're not able to stay on the policy and don't have a full-time job, you're going to be paying $300, $400, $500 a month for insurance, if it's not group insurance. So anyway, so much for that with bodily senses. But really, another question, why do we even care about technology in the use of our classes? Why do we care about it? Okay, one hand over there.
Where's the hand?
Okay. I'll wait for Allison to get there.
The students use it.
The students use it, that's right. And what else?
Well, just like you said, the fast pace of information in our country, maybe our books are not keeping up, or they can't keep up with it. So it keeps us on the cutting edge of progress.
Right. We're like the book Megatrends. We're bombarded with so much information.
It helps deliver the message to the
It
students.
helps to deliver the message. Do you feel comfortable with students using technology in the classroom? Anyone? Do you feel comfortable? Because people have different opinions about it.
I need a pulley system.
I think there's a very negative point of technology is of course there is a lot of information, but actually students are accessing that information or not. That's important.
Okay.
So, for example, I have experience with my own children where they spend more time on computer, but probably they don't know the real stuff which they are supposed to know, though they are sitting on computer or accessing their interest of the thing. But I think that's very important that even the kids in today's world, they are using so much of technology, but then there should access to the right content, not the, they're out of their subject, that's the difficult part.
Okay. Anyone else?
Anybody nearby?
And think within your own family how this technology is used. My youngest son, the youngest of 4, is 23. He doesn't want a book anymore. He wants everything online. He wants it so it can come on his phone, his iPad. And I'm going like, wow, I still need the book. But there's definitely an age difference there, but it's also the technology that they're finding that they feel very, very comfortable with. And sometimes with us being in the classroom, I know I was with the group for the freshman orientation, And all of the students came in, and they were very, very well trained, I could say as a mother. They came in, they took their seats, and they were very quiet, and they were very attentive. And then there was one young man that stood up, and he was walking around the room, and I thought he was looking for something. And since two of us were teaching, I says, "May I help you?" He says, "No, I'm just trying to make sure nobody's using their phone while the teacher's teaching." And I thought about that, and I go, well, that stresses a point I always say. In a classroom, you as the instructor set the tone for what you want to be used and what you feel comfortable with. If you feel uncomfortable with students having their iPads out, their iPhones out, you need to let them know in the syllabus what you prefer in that classroom. Because for me, I like using it, because when I'm talking about things that are going on in healthcare, some of my students would raise their hand and say, "Well, Dr. Sharpe, I just looked this up on whatever website, and this is what they're saying." Well, I like that. It doesn't bother me, but someone else, it could. So we have to be very careful about what technology we feel comfortable with. But back again to the question, what can you say is an advantage of technology, Finnian technology? We'll wait for Allison with the mic.
It engages the students in their learning.
Very good, because that's the answer I was really looking for. It engages the students. It really engages the students. And it really teaches us. Now, you can imagine some of us, when we were in school, all we had was a book. All we had was a book. But now students have the technology that helps them with their learning style. And don't be embarrassed to ask them how they're doing some things and how they're dealing with it, because I actually found out a lot about YouTube. I had not used it, and one of my students was a X-ray tech. And over in the morning when I'm working, she just sent me an email and I answered back. Pretty soon we had a chat going, and I started talking to her about, what do you know about YouTube? Because I heard you mention something in class about it. She said, "What do you want to know?" I said, "Everything." and because of that, she helped me to realize how easy that was to use. And that's what I mean. Some of the technology, for some of us, if we haven't used it, can really make you feel uncomfortable. And you don't know where do I use it? And if you look down on number 6, I put down, from my experience, wherever it is appropriate to be where you want to use it. Where do you want it to be? Like, for instance, if you're planning your course, you may want to make a video of yourself. If you got distant learning students, and it doesn't have to be but less than 5 minutes that they see your face and hear your voice to say, "Hello, I'm Dr. Sharpe, whatever you want to say." I have done that. I have found out through the years that as I feel more comfortable with the technology, guess what? I'm using it more, and I'm using different techniques. I love to use blog. Anybody use blogging? Like to use blogging? Oh, you want to tell us something about your blogging? Someone who hasn't said anything, I think over here, Allison.
Thanks. Hi, I decided to start using blogging in my upper level anthropology class because I reflected on the fact that after graduation, majority of our students aren't going to ever have the need to write an essay. So I decided that it would be better to teach them a different kind of writing skill. And I think that there's a lot to be gained from being able to express oneself on the internet, and that has a greater applicability outside of the academic environment that essay writing just does not have.
Very good. Anyone else with blogging? And we all get hit with blogging. You can be on the internet, you can get a pop-up, or you can get something where someone wants to know your opinion about something. I like to use blogging as getting my students to interact with each other. And the first thing they want to know is, how many points am I going to get for this? Are you going to grade me on A or B? I says, no. This is your opportunity to talk to each other. You can use discussion board. I like using something different than discussion board and PowerPoint. So I like the blogging to get them to interact with each other, to be able to express themselves. Now, many of you have you have courses where general ed requirements have to be met within the major, right? In the major electives. Has anyone used any technology to assist with that? Oh, we got some hands here.
I use Google Documents,
Okay.
and I teach the students also how to use Excel. And I had to say that maybe it's only my students, but they really don't know how to use technology that is not Facebook or some other kind of music related. And it's not a complaint, it's just a reality. So there are always maybe 30–40% students that definitely don't know how to use a computer.
Right. So if I remember correctly, you have a course now that you do for students
Yes.
who don't know how to use and operate the technology.
Well, this is an information literacy class, so the goal of the class is to write a paper and learn how to write it. But I always have at least 20–30% students that don't have any clue how to use the technology that is not Facebook.
That's true. Anyone else?
I kind of have a related problem. I have a distance learning only class, and every term I have students that can't deal with the technology, and I can't be with them to help them. What do you do about that?
OCCS and me, Mostly it's the instructor, in my opinion, because if you
My computer crashed. What do I do?
They have to go to a lab or borrow a computer. Well, you know what? But that happens even when I was doing the online testing. I had a student to say to me, and actually I was able to give my faculty back some wonderful feedback about issues involved in online comprehensive testing. They're back to the paper and pen now. That'll give you an answer to that. But there are many issues you cannot control for. If a student is out of the country, which some of our students were at that time, and they say, I've lost connection, but let me tell you, one thing I learned, two things, and I think they're important. Number one, you cannot control for cheating. You cannot control for cheating. Number two, if computers are gonna crash, they lose connection, you must have more than one form of the exam. You have to, because in fairness, if you're gonna give them an exam and there's a 3-hour gap before they can start back up, you can't give them, rightfully or shouldn't, in my opinion, the same exam, because and it's a timed exam. They've been exposed to that. They know what the answers are gonna be. So those are issues. It needs to be one of the classes about issues dealing with technology, because that's a topic by itself. But it doesn't mean you can't use the technology. It's just like anything else. You're gonna have to control and expect the unexpected, and what is gonna be your action plan. You know, my background clinically is a nurse. When you call these acts of nurse places, they have a tree, a decision tree they're using. You know, you tell them what's wrong with you, and they're going by what's in that decision tree. It's just like with technology. You know, one of my daughters, who's also a teacher, but she also done some other little work to make money, and one of her jobs was, one of her jobs was tech support. And these people would have problems with their computers and everything, and she says, Mom, I have a script, and I have a book, and I have the computer, and whatever they tell me, I look up the answers, and I tell them what to do based on that. And that's what I meant before about you have to find what you're comfortable with, because there's so much. Now, did anyone else have anything they wanted to say about technology for meeting, the gen ed requirements within the major elective? Anyone else had an experience?
Yeah, I had one more comment, and actually a problem. Maybe, I don't know if you have a solution for that, but I do allow my students to bring a computer, laptop, iPad, whatever they want, because the main goal is to learn how to use the library, databases, and website. But I'm dealing always, every semester, with students who do not have any kind of technology. They cannot afford it. And this is actually becoming an issue, because this semester I'm not teaching a class that has like 60 laptops. So I really don't know how to deal with that. And I think that they are disadvantages because they cannot, learn it when we are in class. And I think this is a problem across campus. That students do not have the technology because they cannot afford it.
What were they having?
We do have loaners, and Jeannie can probably respond to that. But there is the possibility of loaning students iPads and other equipment.
At the Learning Commons Help Desk, we have an equipment loan service, and you can borrow for a period of time, usually in the library, a laptop, an iPad, and cameras, and some other resources. I actually don't know, but if you're in the library to do your work, you can bring it back and renew it, I'm sure. Okay.
Just a quick suggestion about how to deal with the technology for students. So earlier, for example, there is on the CLT website, there is an online student orientation. It's clt.odu.edu/OSO. It has a lot of resources that help students get started, for example, with basic technology issues, and also it allows them to test their computers, for example, for specific plugins and so on and so forth. So depending what kind of technology you are using in the beginning of the semester, you might want to recommend to your student to go through that online student orientation. And also, for example, if there are any specific issues that you are dealing with that you would like to add to that, we can also do that. And of course, there are tons of resources that are available online that deal specifically with a lot of different things. You just need to be a little bit proactive and identify what technologies you are using and what kind of support, and add that to the to either to your syllabus as a resource or for example, in fact, even on a Blackboard, there is a module that deals with some of these issues. So there are a lot of resources that can help your student.
Very quickly, I wanted to add that if the students are in Virginia, they can go to their local distance learning site that's an ODU site. And there are ODU distance learning staff in that site that can help them with access as well as maybe with some of their problems. Also, if they have problems, the ITS Help Desk, which has an 800 number as well as a toll-free number as well as their number. The ITS Help Desk, we've done a lot of work. I'm from CLT, but I've been working on the committee, that they are technical support for whatever needs technical support. So the encouragement is to have your students contact tech support, and hopefully they can resolve their technical issues such as my computer crashed and that type of thing. But also, if they're not in Virginia at one of the sites, then I encourage them to seek a local library.
And watch, the mic is coming over there. Thank you for bringing that out, because it's important for those of us, for accreditations of our program, when we're using distant learning, that we put a solution in the syllabus for that. And I know I have it in my syllabus because I have to. But there is the link. They want the link in the paperwork for distance learning. If there's a problem, if a student does not know how to use what you're using, how do they learn it? So you give them the link, in your self-study, so they can click on it and make sure it's for real.
Yeah, I think that I think it's a problem with the generation of the students, because I'm sure that the information is out there how to fix any of their problem. The problem is that they don't want to look for that information. It takes time. And I never try, but the idea of asking a student of mine to go to a local library to find a solution to a problem, I don't think it's going to work. I mean, they are not going there. They even don't know what a library is. So.
If a student was taking 4 courses and buying 4 paper textbooks, 2-3 years ago, they were probably spending more than they're spending now on technology. Certainly in the sciences, they were spending $120 per book. That's $480 gets you a nice iPad. So the students are now renting e-textbooks. I don't think their expenses have gone up. So I don't feel bad about the fact I require my students to have a mobile device in class every day. And I think there's a technology that is going to dramatically change things, and that's polling. I was up to this year using polleverywhere.com. Turning Leaf also have polling with students' own mobile devices. It's like clickers with students' own mobile devices. But the one I'm using this year is Learning Catalytics, and I think it's going to be a game changer.
Okay.
So I'll poll maybe 5 times during the lecture. The students are getting credit every time they respond.
Does anyone have a course that you're teaching and you have to incorporate, say for instance, if they don't have a speech requirement and they can meet that requirement within the upper electives, or what are you doing in courses like that? What type of technology are you using for oral communication to meet that requirement, gen ed requirement? Anyone? Well, I am.
Okay.
Yes, and what have I done about that? Well, what I now do about that is I have found that YouTube works very well for me with students who need to meet a speech requirement. And it's so interesting when you use the technology and you find out things that you need to tell them about. Like for instance, if you're going to send me a YouTube tape, take down all the beer bottles behind you. You know? Or if you're doing it in your shower area, you know, you might want to take down your underwear that's hanging up there. But it's those little cutesy type things that you find out when the technology that you're using. And they're so focused on getting the work done that they're not thinking about the background. Well, that meant I had to think about the background too, right? So I went to, what did I do? I searched online, and I believe it was Walmart. Walmart sells screens. And what I did, honest to goodness, I bought myself a nice little screen to put behind me. So if I'm using a camera, it's books, scholarly books is my background. Scholarly books is but my students taught me that really. That's why I say it's with using technology, you learn what you feel comfortable with, and you learn how to tell others on how to do it so that it looks professional, you know. And I'm pretty sure all of us, you know, my last class that I had to make a syllabus for, I taught it before at a higher level, at the master's level. And this time for healthcare delivery, I'm doing it at the online 300 level. And I really found that on YouTube, there are some really good things out there that's made by other universities that have put things on display. There are things that the government has put down. So you, as the faculty member instructor for the class, you have the opportunity, and those things are free. That's why I'm looking at, yay, I have something free here I can use. And I may want my students, if I'm not only talking about the United States healthcare system, I might want them to know about the healthcare system in China, Japan, some of the poor countries in Africa, because it really has more meaning when you take it out of just our country and compare it for that subject matter. And you know, we're becoming so global. You just don't focus just on what's going on in the United States anymore. Our population is more global, more international than it ever has been. And we have to know these kinds of things. In the Navy, I mean, they school us all the time before we go into a certain area that we know the culture, we know the language. If we don't know the language, we're definitely going to learn about the culture and the customs, because we better not violate them while we represent the American government. But the technology can be fun. It really can be, in what you're learning. Now, to make sure I'm staying on my little sheet here, budget. Yeah, you learn real fast. If you have ideas of things that you want to use, you need to find out, and I like the chair. The chairs know the answer to anything when it comes to money, I think, is my opinion and my experience. When you have an idea that you want to introduce something into your classes, you know, they may refer you to the library, but there are other places that you might not know of here that handles things that you might want to use for your classes. And the CLT staff, they didn't pay me any money to say none of this, but I'm really telling you from my own experience, I really love working with the people there, because when you come there, you don't have to feel like you're stupid or you're dumb, that you don't know something that you're supposed to know. They are truly professionals. When you tell them what you need and what you want to learn, somebody is going to help you. You mean, even after hours, I have emailed people like SOS, you know, I need help with this, and I'll get a timely response back. And I think we can't overemphasize that because staff development is very important. We have new faculty members that come in, they have a responsibility to do things, and they want to know. You might have a transfer faculty person say, well, at my university, we didn't do this or that. But if it's something pertaining to instruction, CLT, even preparing for national presentations at conferences, they're very helpful in helping you to get your presentation done. So I really like that. What about talking with other faculty members? Can any one of you tell me what goes on in your faculty meeting that you help each other when new people come in and they need to learn about technology? Is there any exchange of helping each other? Oh, no. No. No, and that's good to know because you're probably right. That's what I say. You know, one thing I learned as a doctorate student, we all were highly intelligent people, but we didn't share nothing with each other until toward the end when we were getting ready for comprehensive exams. I did learn a little bit at the University of Maryland when I was working on my master's because I found out I had some classmates who were already at the level that they needed to be. They were just in school picking up the degree. They were working in research. They were doing things that some of us were pulling our hair out on because, you know, we didn't have those little nice computers like we had now. We had those little cards that if the right hole wasn't in the right place, it didn't run, you know, that sort of thing. So if we're not sharing and trying to find out from all of our faculty, and they don't have to be new, they could be someone who's just not doing online classes for the first time. It helps to talk about what you're doing and what you need help with, even among yourself. I mean, I was in staff development for most of my career. You know, nurses, we move from the bedside as we become more senior, we become more administrative. And so I learned from working in staff development that many times we don't even talk to each other. And just think about how much better our classes could be if we had some, and it doesn't take but less than 5 minutes sometimes when people are talking about, well, I was working with this and I noticed I couldn't do this, and you say, oh, you got to just click on that. And sometimes that's all it is. You just need to click on that button, and whatever problem you had, you know, will cease to be a problem. It's just that knowledge. And when we, you know, when we need tech support at home, and we don't have the geek squad to do it for us, how much money are you paying? Lots of money many times. And you say, well, they didn't do nothing, or it didn't take them long to do anything. Well, the knowledge exchange can go on among you. And that's something I kind of felt, and you guys really validated when nobody put their hand up to say they were doing it. Staff development is important if we're gonna use technology when it fits in, because you gotta feel comfortable with it. You really do. You're not going to use it if you don't feel comfortable with it. And then is it really going to enhance your learning style? And we haven't talked about the teacher's learning style or the teacher's anxiety in using technology, but it's there. You know, you want to feel comfortable. You gotta really examine yourself to say, what do I feel comfortable with in using technology in the classroom? Or am I totally anti-use? I mean, I have been around some people at national conferences who just like, if I have to put technology, or if I have to have online or distant learning, I'm quitting. I go, y'all must be some rich people, but I need to work. I need my job, I need to work. So you can have different reasons why you want to use technology, and you change from what you're doing. It might be, I mean, I could really not really care about it. But looking at my situation, I said, well, it's a means to an end. If I want my job, this is something I've got to learn. So you will, as the faculty member, have different reasons on your feelings toward technology. Or you could be using the basis of some theory with learning that supports why you don't care nothing about technology. Any other questions or comments? What, the gentleman?
I think you made a valuable point, Jackie. I just wanted to point out that we are taking some tiny steps. So, for example, on the 17th of September, we are bringing all the new faculty members, the new tenure track faculty members in for breakfast. And Mohammed Abdus is going to be there to answer any questions relating to technology that they have. I know that this is not a complete answer, but we are conscious of some of these issues, and we'd love to have your advice about what else we could do.
Thank you. It's like so much in life when we start opening up and we start sharing with each other. We learn from each other, and it's also good psychotherapy. You know, my background is a nurse, and psychiatry was one of them. It hasn't been any part of nursing I don't think I've worked. I mean, when you're a military nurse, the goal is that you're able to function in any type of situation, in any environment. So we were always rotated through. And the good thing about here, I'm happy to hear you say that, because in being around some of our new faculty members, I was happy I was around to answer some of their questions, because they too had to start working with online instruction, and some of them had not done it, or they may not have been familiar with what we do here at Old Dominion University. Well, we're getting close. Everybody's enjoying their lunch that they don't have. Next, well, I won't keep you too much longer. It's 15 after. Okay, my next one, and I can't overemphasize that, number 9, seeking assistance from the Center for Learning and Teaching. When I was on active duty in the military, even up until the time I left Naval Hospital Portsmouth in 2001, we didn't have the resources that you guys have over here, that we have over here when it comes to training. We were, most of the times, we were kind of farmed out to the community. The Navy had contracts with different computer services and for learning, and we would put our name down on a little list, and hopefully we wouldn't get bumped off. But I look at how many times when you look at the Center for Learning schedule, they run their classes more than one time. And you don't have to drive anywhere if you come to Norfolk and you're on the campus. It's right here. You can just walk over to the building. But what I'm saying is count your blessings, because you don't have to pay. I put that down there, and you said, what's she talking about? Of course it's free. Not so many times in some places. Sometimes places can pay for their employees, and even the United States Navy sometimes couldn't pay for everything that was needed. But what we found out, since I was head of education and training, we would contract for our classes for our staff. And then we start getting our staff trained to do it in-house, and that made it even cheaper. But you know what's the problem with that? Is that you got to have the space, the facilities, and equipment if you're going to do training like that. Well, we got it all right over here, right in walking distance. So don't be slow about getting the training that you need. And I know I'm used to things costing. When something is free, I love it. And another thing about the CLT, you're not limited on how many times you can take the same class. And I'll be honest with you, some of the technology for me required, I went back and I told one of my office mates, I said, I went to that class, but I didn't get it. She looked at me and she said, I didn't either. So we both went back, and that was the beauty of it. We could go back. And what we didn't hear the first time, because many times when you learn the technology, you have to be on the keyboard and listening, and sometimes your brain and all that is not in sync. But so when you go back the next time, you've had an overview of that. So then you can synthesize that and get it all together. So kudos for our people in the Center for Learning and Technology. And the technology, again, I want to emphasize number 9, my next to last sentence. Use technology that you feel comfortable with. Start out using what you feel comfortable with. If you feel comfortable with the PowerPoint, but don't make it your only technology you always use. I think we kind of overuse it, but that's my opinion. You may not agree. And number 10 I put down here, lastly, because I thought this was important. Your enthusiasm for what you teach is the greatest asset you give to your students, whether it's online or whether it's in a traditional classroom setting. And you know, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but you've got to be able to deliver it. And like I was saying, I look being a program director and now having a program going back up for recertification, I get to look at and review everybody's course syllabus and their CVs. And many times when I look at the course syllabus, I say, I don't see all that brilliance that's in that CV. And you might say, what do you do about that? I said, talk sweet to them and be real nice and ask them that question, you know, you got all this wealth of knowledge. How can you communicate that more than giving the students questions to ask at the end of the chapter? Questions just to ask at the end of the chapter, and that's their homework. What else can you do in that online class to engage those students? To engage them, because that will enhance their learning. You know it's going to enhance. Enough research has been done to document that. Okay, but your use of technology can enhance your presentation style, even if this is online teaching. Well, I thank you very much for your attentiveness. I've enjoyed talking with you. I've enjoyed your feedback. And we definitely, with the rest of the speakers to follow, if you look at that list of the speakers to follow, they are all building on technology. And I can tell you now, I'll be back. Thank you very much.